Damn, what's going on out there, man? It is the homie, Mainman here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing. It's going down, you know what I mean? Word on the curb. Michael Coppinger, Mr. Sources himself, is reporting on his Twitter that the offer from Terrence Crawford and Bob Arum to KELL BROOK has been revealed, and it's $1.5 million. I'm going to say that again. The offer to KELL BROOK from Terrence Crawford's side, $1.5 million. Not sure if that's only just a guarantee and if that's going to include any sort of back-end pay-per-view revenue from the UK. More than likely, it probably will, though, you know. But $1.5 million. I got good news and bad news about this. Let's start with the good, shall we? The good is $1.5 million, they cannot be light years apart. You look at the recent purses of KELL BROOK, and given that this is a pandemic and everyone knows what's going on, $1.5 million and the number that he possibly truly wants, or Eddie Hearn wants for him, cannot be that far off. It just cannot be. I think 1.5, if you can get them up to about 2.5, somewhere around there, you know, and maybe a little pay-per-view revenue, we might got us a fight, you know. The good thing also about this is that KELL BROOK actually has a promoter, which there is someone that Bob Arum and Top Rank can sit down and work with, unlike Keith Thurman's situation, who comes out and asks for a bunch of money, but he doesn't have no sort of backer to want to come to the table and help find that money. That's not the case with KELL BROOK. Eddie Hearn is well on record in recent days saying that, look, I will try to assist Top Rank in getting the numbers up. So which means that he's going to go and look for a couple dollars himself to try to add to this pot. So that's always a big plus, a big plus. The bad is it's definitely a low ball, without a doubt. It is definitely a low ball. When you look at KELL BROOK's purses, you look and you see, and then, you know, KELL BROOK, what he's been recently making, and I understand that those purses were done in a non-pandemic time. I get that. But the purses that he has been making has been fairly pretty good, even without a belt. They've been fairly pretty good. And KELL BROOK is not going to want to dip too far below that, especially when he was getting offered more for lesser opponents. Look at KELL BROOK's purses right here. And then you think also that his rival, the guy that KELL BROOK loves to emulate, you know, do the same things that he does, been following him around his whole career, and that is Amir Khan. Now, it's been reported that Amir Khan got a guarantee of $5 million from Terrence Crawford. And then he went on to make a total of around $7 million after you included the pay-per-view revenue. Now, you got to remember in Amir Khan's case that pay-per-view revenue came from the UK as well as the American side. So there was a lot more money in the pot. Unlike, not sure if they're looking to do this on ESPN or ESPN pay-per-view or Top Rank pay-per-view. Those type of details just have not yet been let out yet. So it is what it is. But they're not too far apart, which is always a good thing. I mean, you think about KELL BROOK against Sean Porter. He got paid $200,000, but he wasn't a champion yet at that point. So of course, we expecting a challenger who was just getting his first championship shot to, of course, come in there and making like the minimum. But against Gennady Golovkin, reported to get between $4 and $5 million. Now, keep in mind, fight fans, that $4 to $5 million was not negotiated for KELL BROOK. That $4 to $5 million was negotiated for Chris Eubank Jr., who pulled out of that fight, and KELL BROOK stepped in. The numbers were already sealed at that point. So, but he still got a good payday, regardless if it was meant for him or not. He still got a pretty good number from Gennady Golovkin. Now, that's Gennady Golovkin. It could be argued that he's probably a bigger attraction than, say, Terrence Crawford. Not to mention the whole story of daring to be great KELL BROOK going up 2 weight classes. It was a seller, you know, so he got pretty decent money for that. Against Errol Spence Jr., huge fight in the UK. He got £3 million plus pay-per-view revenue. So that's a pretty damn good payday right there. Against Michael Zarafa, $2 million. Against Rabchenka, $2.5 million. These all are numbers that are much higher than the offer that Bob Arum offered. I mean, for the most part, offered to KELL BROOK. Now, like I said before, if you include pay-per-view revenue, don't know if they're going to do pay-per-view on both sides of the water. But if they just included just the UK, where KELL BROOK does fight on Sky Sports box office, their pay-per-views are running about 20 to 25 pounds. So it's not that big of a pot as opposed to an American pay-per-view, which runs about $75 to $80. So of course there'll be more money. So we'll see how they gin this up. The question is Kell Brook and Terrence Crawford, is it a pay-per-view that they can put on here in America? I mean, they did Khan. Word is that the numbers didn't come out so solid. They betted on Khan's Army Barmy, and the Army Barmy never showed up. You know, they abandoned Khan for whatever reason in one of his biggest fights. They just didn't show up on the pay-per-view numbers. Maybe they showed up in the UK numbers, but as far as the American numbers, that's a no-go, you know. But then again, it can be argued that Terrence Crawford could have did a better job at carrying the American numbers, as well as Bob Arum could have done a better job at promoting Terrence Crawford to work those numbers up a bit more. So it is what it is. But this is one thing I want people to keep in mind, because I've always said this about Terrence Crawford. This is the way boxing business goes. When you feel like you have an opponent that's in a very vulnerable situation, such as like a Kell Brook and Terrence Crawford, where their options are very, very limited, then you feel like you can step to these dudes and throw them anything you want. Kell Brook's case, where his options are pretty damn limited, if you ask me. It's either go after Terrence Crawford or take your chances up at 154. And given the recent talks and how they're moving over there with Matchroom and Kell Brook, they're not really too much interested in the top dogs at 154. But who else will Kell Brook have to fight? If he sucks himself down to 47, he's not going to want to do it for just any old fight. Well, when I look at the other top name welterweights over on PBC, Earl Spence is busy, Danny Garcia is busy. Sean Porter just recently had a fight. Don't think he's willing to entertain the Kell Brook rematch right now. And Yordenis Ugas is busy. So anyone that Kell Brook is really looking to make a good bag of money with in the welterweight division, either they're busy or it's just not a good time. It's just not a good time for them. Even in Keith Thurman's case, where he doesn't have a fight yet, but do I see Keith Thurman? Well, maybe he'll take a Kell Brook fight if he can suck him down and to a weight class that he hasn't fought at in years. And even though Keith Thurman's hand is said to not been all the way healed and he hasn't started hitting the bag at 100% yet, he may see Kell Brook as slightly vulnerable, given that he has to drain him down in weight. It's semi-possible, but do I see it? I don't think so. I just don't think so right now. I don't think Keith will see the reward from it. But who knows? Just the way the boxing goes. And to me, in this case, Kell Brook's options are very limited. And in Terrence Crawford's case, well, no need for me to explain. We already know his options are limited. So when you have this situation, and Bob recognizes it because it's been happening to Crawford, well, I'm going to try to throw you anything I can, because it's like, what else are you going to do? But that ain't how boxing fans rock, man. We ain't cool with that. You know what I mean? I think this is an ongoing thing. This is not final by far. I'm expecting counters, hopefully, after this offer has been made. Now, everyone out there knows that Terrence Crawford's side has made an offer. You know what the number is. Most, if not most, will say this is a lowball offer, and this is how they do. Well, we'll wait on the counter offer and see what Eddie Hearn comes back to the table with and says, nope, that's not good enough. You can give us more. You can give us this number. So we'll see. We'll see. But the good news is, like I said, they're not light years apart, which is awesome. This is awesome if you ask me. Kell Brook, he still got a name. He still has a name. He's known amongst the U.S. fans. His victory over Sean Porter has not been forgotten. His fight with Earl Spence Jr. has not been forgotten. So in Crawford's case, he got a recognizable more so name. Now, Amir Khan's name rung a few bells here, but given he never really got the big win over the American, it's always been one of those things where a lot of the American fan base saw Khan as just a UK level fighter, those who did not know. And I'm just being honest about that. But in Kell Brook's case, given that he's had high profile fights with Gennady Golovkin, Sean Porter, as well as Earl Spence Jr., his name ring bells here in America. I don't know how it's going to translate to the pay-per-view box, but I will say his name is known. So we'll see how this continues to go. Bob Arum, Terrence Crawford, they starting low, as to be expected, but I am expecting that number to come up. You know what I mean? Kell Brook is definitely worth $2 to $3 million, in my opinion. Some believe up till $4 million. I definitely, between the $2 to $3 million, maybe even $4 million range, I'm down to see that for Kell Brook. I'm being honest about it. I think that's just fair, even during a pandemic. And we can talk about this later. Much love to the fam. Thumbs up on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. I just think that this is one of those things that, well, Bud is in a situation business-wise where, well, this is just the landscape for him. everyone is going to come asking for more money for Terence Crawford. He is a high-risk opponent. They also know that Terence Crawford is not this big pay-per-view draw. It's not this big overwhelming draw. Yeah, I'm facing the pound-for-pound #1 fighter, but at the end of the day, I'm not getting paid top dollar. It's a hard situation for Terence Crawford, given that he's working with a promoter who just likes to lowball. It is what it is. Catch up with y'all later, fam. Until the next one. Peace out.